Hello and welcome to the Rangers Journal. My name is Billy Rankin and I'm your host for this evening. Tonight we're going to have a look back at Rangers' game against Benfica at the Estadio de Luz, and we'll look forward to Rangers' up-and-coming Scottish Cup quarter-final match with Hibernian at Easter Road on Sunday. I'm not going to do this alone, however. I've got two guests with me this evening. You know them, you love them. Scotty, how are you doing?
Aye, not bad at all, mate. Not bad at all. It's nice to be sitting in the pundit seat for a change of night.
Well, it's going to be interesting for all of us. And also, Kai, how are you doing?
I'm very well, mate. It's nice to be on second week in a row after not being on in a few weeks. So, nice to be back on.
Good stuff, good stuff. I'm going to go round you both and just talk about your initial reaction to the starting lineup, but I'll read that back to you just now. We started with Butland in goal, Tav, Goldson, Suter and Yilmaz as our back four, Diamandi and Lundstrom as a two-man midfield, and then as a kind of forward-thinking line with D. John Sterling, Tom Lawrence, Fabio Silva, and then Dessers as the lone striker. Kai, first of all, any surprises in that starting lineup?
Not really for me, mate. I think it was probably as strong as we could have went without going to the three at the back. I was quite happy not kind of slotting Davis in there. Obviously, the lack of football he's had, so I thought it was the best what Clement could do with what he had. So, pretty standard with what we had available, to be honest.
And Scotty, yourself, what did you think?
I thought it was a very attacking lineup, to be honest with you, Billy. I was quite surprised at how he set up, if that makes any sense. I was surprised that he never changed formation. Thought Diamandi, Lawrence will obviously get into all the performers later on, but I thought it was a really, really good attacking lineup, and I thought the football we played suited this team, if that makes any sense, for considering it was European football. Get a wee bit more time in the ball, you get to show your true ability and you're not getting shut down, you're not playing against a low block. I thought Rangers did us proud last night, to be honest.
Kai, you mentioned the back five. What benefit do you think that would have given us, if any, over that starting lineup that we went with?
I thought with the players we had available, it might have been something that was interesting to go with. You'd obviously be able to use kind of Tav and Ridvan as the wide men. We're having the three defenders. In theory, it gives you a bit more solidity, but then you obviously don't know how Davis has barely kicked the ball. You don't know how he would do coming straight into that. And it's one of those things, if we obviously weren't going to start McCausland, the players we had on the bench would probably meant we had to change it to a four at the back. So I think sticking with what we know and then being able to put players in the same positions later on would have benefited these more than kind of swapping it a formation that we've not really played since Clement's been here.
That's what I was worried about. We've not really done it. The three at the back or five at the back, whatever you call it. And there was some wild things going about in other pods mentioning that Barisic should start and Yilmaz should be ahead of him, which I thought you're never going to see that. Even though you can't really second guess a Clement side, that was probably never going to happen. Scotty, can I ask you to bring up Silva's heat map? Because you were impressed with Silva, particularly last night.
I was. I thought that was Fabio Silva's best performance in the Rangers jersey last night, if I'm being brutally honest. Footmob only gave him a 6.5 rating, which really, really surprised me, Billy, to be honest. But it came out, it suits playing on the left so much. It's his natural position by the looks of it. It's my favourite position for him. The shift he put in last night was scary. I mean, it shows you how often he's in the left back area tracking his man. I thought he was really good. Showed his technical ability. Obviously got to assist for the second goal, which came at a really good time before half time. I just thought his overall performance last night was outstanding.
You know what I loved about his performance last night is when both goals went in, he celebrated like he scored them. I don't know if you noticed that, but he was like the one, I think Sterling was jumping on his back for the second goal and he ran away to the crowd.
He's loving it. He's loving playing for Rangers, so you can see that.
Kai, do you think he had anything to prove going back to Portugal?
I think personally he might have had a bit of something to prove. He obviously made his name over there, then got his big move, and it's not really worked out for him. But you could see there was so many times he'd like when I throw in, when I corner, and he was just smiling at the camera. He was just really enjoying himself last night. I fully agree with Scotty. I think it was his easily best performance. He played out in the left for PSV towards the end of last season. I think the ability he has on the ball, he's again a lot. I said this when he came in. He's a lot quicker than I actually thought he was. Like from seeing him bits of him at Wolves, and obviously when he was at Porto. Like I hadn't seen enough of him to realise that he does possess real pace. He's obviously got ability on the ball. He's good at holding it up. He's also really intelligent. Like he'll drive forward when he's got the chance, when he's got the support. But again, he can hold it up. There's so many times he won just wee throw-ins that let us kind of reset. And I think he really enjoyed himself last night. And I'd definitely like to see him out in the left more often.
And Scotty, I do agree with you. I think that's probably his best performance for us so far. Were we maybe right then to worry that we hadn't brought in another striker in the January window, because it does seem like left is his natural position or his favourite position?
Aye, definitely. I think he can do the number 9 role, but as I said last Friday, that he's a number 9 playing as a number 10 when he plays up front. It's just the way he is. He's just a creative player. He's not got that kind of natural goal scoring instinct that I believe I've done a pod before called Toothless Up Top in on a gallant view, and I still think we're just a wee bit toothless, to be honest with you. We needed reinforcements up in the forward area in January. We didn't get it. We're getting off with it so far. So I just hope that that's not going to come back and bite us at the end of the season, because after that performance last night, we could potentially be looking at a European run again.
I do hope so, mate. I do hope so. And I mean, we'll talk about where we're kind of sitting. It is only half time at the moment. We'll talk about that a bit later on. But just finishing on Silva, Kai, do you like him playing with Dest? I suggested it a few weeks ago and it was kind of tongue in cheek. But now that I've seen it, how do you feel about them two, not as a partnership, but playing in the same team?
I like him coming off the left. I really like him coming off there because he's good. Obviously, we don't have Cortez now. He's not maybe the exact same type of player as Cortez. He's maybe a wee bit more of a creator than kind of obviously Scotty said he doesn't have that natural instinct. I think he does a lot of running, the same with Dessers. The two of them pressed really well. I thought a couple of times they'd won the ball really high up. I think they do link together quite well. They'd obviously need that bit extra time to get that bit more understanding, but going forward, assuming if we obviously say this all the time, if Roof can stay fit, he's obviously the second option to Dessers probably for the striking position. And with Cortez out for the rest of the season, I would like to see Silva stay out there because I think he's a big threat and the work rate is there. It's not like he doesn't track back, he does the work both ways. And I just think he offers something a bit different out in the left-hand side.
Yep. If we can move on slightly then, I'm going to stay with you, Kai. Jack Butland had been linked with a recall to the England squad. Not that it was his best performance last night, but how do you think that being on that stage affects his chances of getting that call up?
I think it only does the world a good for his confidence as well. He's obviously wasn't playing a lot before he came to Rangers, and then he got the chance to just play league football and then going into Europe as well. I think can only do his chances good. It's obviously a massive stage. Made a couple of good double saves last night, especially. A couple of really good saves. A couple of times, probably the worst I've seen him with the ball at his feet. I think a couple of times he had a few kind of dodgy kicks, but I think in general, again, it was a good performance. It's just really nice. I know we've said this before. It's been said throughout the season, but it's nice to have a keeper that you think can come for a cross and you know they're not going to fluff it every time and they don't just stand on their line. Like he is proactive there, which I think's been the biggest difference to our chances this season. And I think I'm not sure he'll go with England when it comes to the summer, but I don't think he's done his chances any harm whatsoever.
There's a concern for me was, Scott, I'll come back to you on this one, but if I just say this first, the distribution you mentioned there, Kai, that probably is something that England would be really interested in looking at and making sure that the keepers they do bring have that in the locker, the distribution to be good. But do you agree with that, Scott, or do you think they'll be looking more overall?
It does bring a, in terms of being a complete goalkeeper, that's exactly what he would bring to the England squad. I don't think he's as error prone as maybe the other keepers would be. we all know Jordan Pickford's got a big error in him. He does hold the number 1 jersey. If Jack Butland doesn't go to the Euros, it's a complete and utter travesty, because he is the second or third best goalkeeper England have got just now. There's absolutely no doubt about it. I've heard in other podcasts people going on about Man United signing on Andre Onana for £55 million, and it's quite hard to say that Butland isn't of the same level as Onana. I think that's fair to say. He's proved it on a European stage as well as a domestic front, how good a keeper he is since he signed for his Billy, and he's got absolutely everything, as well as being an influential leader in the dressing room as well, which Rangers were naturally lacking, especially last season. They needed leaders, and you need a goalkeeper to be a leader. He commands his box very well. He's a good shot stopper. I'm not sure about his penalty saving right enough. I think he needs to do a wee bit of work on that. Like you say about his distribution, but ball at his feet, he's great. I mean, we're really, really lucky we've got this guy, because he's a class above the SPFL. We need to be honest about that.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you there, and we've just had. I mean, we're all kind of. I don't know if we're similar age, but we've all grown up with great keepers. The first one I remember being Chris Woods, and then we've just been in a run of pretty much solid goalkeepers all the way through my life. Anyway, there was one concern with the Goldson own goal. I did feel he maybe could have given him a shout and maybe came for it. Am I being harsh on him there?
Kai, I'll let you take that one.
Yeah, I think there was a couple of things actually. The communication maybe could have been a bit better. I don't know if it was the kind of noise in the stadium or the occasion. There was one with Tav at the back post as well that Butland's left. I don't know if he's had a shout. There was a couple of times the ball was kind of in the air, whipped to the back post, that it didn't look like the communication was there. I mean, it's been there all season. It's hard to kind of criticise that, but I think the Goldson one's just a bit of a freak. You don't know, like you say, you don't know if the shout is there. It's one of those atmospheres, and it's players always talk about it being hard to hear yourself think, and I don't doubt it would have been like that last night. And it might just be a case of it's been Goldson's instinct over hearing any shouts behind them.
I mean, unfortunately, it was a fantastic finish, just at the wrong side. Well, like we talked about Butland, anybody else stood out for you last night? I mean, probably the team as a whole, but any star players other than the two we've mentioned, Scotty?
Probably Diamande. I thought Diamande had a really, really good game last night as well. I know we've said kind of Mohamed Diamande's already turned up in the Rangers shirt, but in terms of seeing a full performance from him, I think that was his best version of that. I think we're seeing the best version of himself in Europe, obviously. It's a completely different ballgame to our domestic scene, so I think players like Diamande, you're going to see the best of them in Europe, which is why I'm starting to think that this team's just got a feel about it, that they're capable of going to the quarters and the semis. I thought Diamande was outstanding last night. John Lundstrom looks really tired. I need to be honest. Goldson looks tired. Ridvan Yilmaz, another 8 out of 10 performance, easily. Boy was absolutely outstanding last night. There was a clip I seen on Twitter earlier on. Somebody who put it up, and it's David Neres is on a counter, and Yilmaz is just so cynical, just puts him up in the air, halves him, takes him out of the game. It's a professional foul, takes a booking for it. We wouldn't have seen that off of Yilmaz this time last year. I believe he was very good. Suter wasn't his best game again either. He's got that error in him. I seen Stevie Clifford in the Rangers review last week, and Stevie Clifford says that he feels that Suter is a better defender in a team that's under pressure. Like a Hearts, for example, that's got you full concentration for 90 minutes, whereas a team that's got the possession, I'm not saying he struggles, but he's definitely had better games than what he did last night. It was unfortunate for a handball. But also, I didn't think Tav had a bad game either. Dujon Sterling again. How often do we need to talk? He's even adding goals to his game now. A guy's just absolutely ridiculous.
Kai, unfortunately, he's not really left you any players to talk about, but was anything that stood out for you with the players?
Looking at games like last night as well, just it's really upsetting that we've not been able to have Tom Lawrence for the full 2 years. I think Tom Lawrence is a brilliant footballer. Again, talk about that level of intelligence, just the pure ability on the ball. Like, it's a brilliant finish, obviously. Silva and Diamandi linked very well down the left hand side, but it's such a good header. Like, it's the one place you would tell people to put it. Heads it down into the ground, bang into the corner. I think we're just a bit of a different team with Lawrence in it. He's got that grit as well as technical ability going forward. And I think it's just honestly a bit gutting that we've not kind of been able to see him play out a full season without injury issues. But Diamandi and Ridvan probably the standouts for me. I think the way Diamandi receives the ball, it's a joy to watch. It's the type of player we've not had that will take the ball in those tight spaces, be able to turn players. Like, how often does he pick up fouls because defenders don't know what way he's going to turn? Like, he's good enough to go kind of both ways. Again, just an intelligent footballer. We've actually, I think, had a lack of players with that kind of level of football and brain. And I think now we've got a side with players with the intelligence to find the runs that other players are making. And there is a confidence there. Obviously, Europa League Thursdays, the team have turned up over the last like kind of 3-4 years. So I think it was a good performance for a lot of the players last night.
Just on Lawrence then, Kai, do we have a bit of a headache then when Cantwell comes back?
I think so, man. It's not just like Lawrence himself giving the headaches, it's how well Diamandi's done behind him. Because you think Cantwell comes back in, Lawrence was obviously playing well deeper. Him and Cantwell were linking really well. Like, it's harsh to drop Diamandi, it's really harsh to drop Lawrence. So it's definitely a headache for the manager. I don't know what he's going to do. I'm assuming he'll obviously ease Cantwell in at first. But when Cantwell's up and running, if he's again in a decent run of form, it's a massive headache for Clement, and I don't envy him one bit in that one.
Just moving on to another flashpoint in the game, the penalty, the equalising penalty that they get. It's, in my opinion, very unfortunate. I've read through different rule books and stuff, and it seems to be different season to season. My issue is it's Suter again that's caused something to happen, and if he's unlucky this time, but it always does seem to be him. First of all, Scott, is it a penalty for you?
Aye, it's a penalty, and it was in the game of day. It's a penalty, even though his arm's up there because he's jumping and he's trying to get leverage. Even though he headers it onto his own arm, in today's game it's a penalty, unfortunately. Handball rules laughable, to be honest with you, Billy. It's ridiculous just now, and it's causing an awful lot of controversy, not just in Scotland but throughout Europe as well. The way it's getting used. John Suter again. I think he's just unlucky, to be honest with you. I'm not going to give him too much stick for that last night because it's just unfortunate. It's just one of these things.
The rule, I think, in Europe anyway, seems to. I mean, it maybe isn't different from week to week for in the league games, but it seems to be like last night was a few incidents, I believe, in other games where maybe things you would consider, that just clipped his hand or whatever, they were given as penalties. Although I think in the West Ham game they should have got one. I was reading anyway. I've not seen it back. No, my point was really just that it is unfortunate, but it's just Suter again for me. And when there is something unfortunate happens, it seems to be him that's on the bad side of it. Don't know if you've got anything to add to that, Kai. Sorry, I don't know if I came to you on what your thoughts on the penalty was.
So I think the most frustrating thing about it is it's a penalty in the Europa League now. As of next season's Europa League, it's not a penalty. It's not a penalty in Scotland by the rules that we use. But for some reason, apparently the rule can't change until a new season starts. I don't know what the kind of technicalities are in that. I think that's the most frustrating thing. Then obviously the West Ham game was pretty similar, and obviously that's not given. So I think refs have it hard enough as it is without changing the rules in different games they're refereeing. So the ref last night could have been refereeing a game at the weekend where that's not a penalty, but then he has to change his mindset for the European games to give it as a penalty. Like, the refs get enough stick as it is, and I think it's a really difficult job without having different rules in different competitions. I know it's changing next year, so it won't be an issue next season, but for now, I think it's just a bit of a mess, to be honest.
Yeah, and so where would you go draw the line? Just any handball is a penalty, or would you think it has to be deliberate, or has to stop a goal, or has to stop an opportunity?
I think they obviously use the term like out with your silhouettes, like the popular thing now, or intent, whatever. Like it's,
Natural position.
I think like deflecting anything deflecting off your own body or someone within like a couple of yards of your point of your hand, I think is very harsh. So I don't even know what the answer is. To be honest, I don't know what the answer is to make the rule kind of as fair as possible. But I think in its current state, especially being different for two different competitions, it's just a bit of a riot.
Well, if we can talk about someone that had a bit of good luck, in my opinion, was Di Maria. In my opinion, he probably could have had 3 yellow cards, to be honest with you, last night. Scott, what do you think about that?
I've got to tend to agree with you in that one, Billy. I was quite worried about Di Maria getting into last night's game, but I think we nullified him very well. I think Yilmaz got inside his head a bit at certain points as well, which is credit to Yilmaz. I mean, Di Maria's still a very, very good player, but he could have had a few yellow cards last night. He shouldn't have been on the park, if I'm being honest.
Kai, I'll come to you with that as well.
I don't know how he's got away with the one at the end. Like, see, even ignoring any other ones in between, the obviously pushes like Yilmaz in the face. I think it is kind of disappointing the way Yilmaz is rolling about, but like some rest would have given that as a red. He does push into his face. His hands very high. I don't know kind of what he's thinking. Like Alan Hutton was talking about that in commentary. Like I don't know what he's doing there, what's going through his head. But it's even worse the fact he gets away with the one at the end. Like you can see his reaction. He's got his head on the floor. Like he's literally he's on his knees with his head on the floor, expecting to turn round and have the second yellow flash and go off the pitch, and he gets away with it. And that could be massive in this tie. Like I know I thought Ridvan done a very good job on him last night. The Demon still created the most chances in the pitch last night, which I didn't realise until I looked back after the game because I looked at, I'm sure it was Fortmob I looked on and they given him like an 8.4 or something. And I was like, he done nothing apart from scoring the penalty, but he created the most chances in the game with 5 chances. So he's obviously still a threat, and that could come back to bite us at Ibrox. I feel confident going back to Ibrox, but Di Maria scores a winner, then I think it's an absolute joke that he's been allowed to play in the game, considering that foul at the end.
Scott, just moving on to Clement and these tactics last night, particularly on substitutions. How do you feel the subs did, and do you think they were the right ones to come on?
I think so, Billy. I think like bringing Ryan Jack and Raskin on towards the end, like I touched upon earlier on Lundstrom looking quite tired. I think that gave us the grip of the midfield. It gave us some fresh legs in there, which is what you need because Benfica were gaining some of the momentum towards the end of the game. The subs are okay. Obviously, McCausland comes on with 4 minutes. He can't really have an effect on the game. Thought the boy Cole McKinnon had a decent cameo when he's come on. I think he did about 13 minutes or something. Overall, I was relatively happy, and seeing McKinnon come on gave me a wee bit of a hope for the youth products because I've been quite critical of the way Rangers give these boys a pathway in. I was really happy to see Cole McKinnon play because I think he's got potential there that we could see getting fulfilled in a Rangers jersey. To be honest, he's had all his loans and stuff like that. So bringing him on a stage like that in terms of games management, he's going to learn an awful lot for experience. So I was quite happy with the subs. I thought they brought some fresh legs to the match, and that's what you're looking for.
Kai, when Clement came in, there was a lot of talk we heard about he gives youth a chance. And then he said it himself that, you know, if someone's good enough, they're old enough, and he's early interviews. This is showing that he isn't scared to throw a player in. Are you hopeful for the future for any other of these academy players?
100%, mate. And I fully agree. You shouldn't just throw in a player because they're from the academy or because they're highly rated by the fans. The fans are asking for it. if they are good enough, they will get in there. And obviously, McKinnon's waited for his chance. Had his debut at the end of the season a couple of years ago. Got the goal against Hearts. Rangers played pretty much a youth team that day and walked over Hearts. I'm sure Lowry got a goal as well when he looked really promising. Went and, like Scotty said, had his loan at Partick. He's obviously had his time in the B team. He's one of the standout players there, so he's waited for his chance. And I think he done well when he came on last night. He had a brilliant block that he's just chucked himself at it that could have resulted in a goal. So he's potentially saved us in that tie. I've seen quite a few people making a lot of him coming on first over Raskin. I think that's just a case of that he suited the right hand side more. That he suited playing kind of as a wide man instead of chucking Raskin out there. I don't think there was anything in that. There's obviously been a lot made of the little game time Raskin has got or when he's come in, kind of how he's played. But I think the only thing in Nicole McKinnon coming on first was he just suited being out wide a bit more. I think he's just got a bit more pace about him.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. I don't think there'd be any point in bringing Raskin in for that position. Now, Raskin comes on at 83, 84 minutes. Scott, how do you feel that he did?
He did okay. He recycled the ball. I mean, he only had about 10 minutes in the match, so it's quite hard to come at him and criticise him or really judge his performance because he had very little time on the pitch to have an influence on the game. I'm hopeful, obviously, we're going to get into predicted lineups later on. I really don't know where we go with it. We need Cole Raskin, to be brutally honest with you, Billy. We could probably do a full pod on the boy because he's splitting opinion just now.
For me, I was just glad to see Raskin and Jack and Roof, these players that have had injuries, all get on and put themselves in contention going forward if they can stay fit. So no, I was happy to see them all. I'll open this out to both of you. How do you think the tie's poised now? Obviously, we go to Ibrox next week. The Ibrox effect or the Ibrox, I don't know what you'd call it, atmosphere certainly helped push us forward to the final a couple of years ago. Now, I don't want a full prediction from you at the moment, but and also there's this awkward time. The kickoff time is going to be weird as well. So, Kai, how do you how's the game poised? It's half time technically.
And there's going to be quite a few sickies thrown that day, or people suddenly feeling not well towards the end of their shift to make that kick-off. But pretty confident, mate. We went over, obviously they've never lost a Europa League game at home. We get very close to beating them with chances to maybe seal the game. Obviously, we're unlucky with the OG. But I'm feeling pretty confident. I think their biggest threats we managed to stifle, and it's a completely different game coming to Ibrox. Obviously, weekend's result might impact the feeling about that as well. Obviously, from our side and their side. So, feeling confident just now. We'll see how the weekend goes, and hopefully go into next week with no fresh injury concerns.
So on a 9 out of, sorry, not 9 out of 10, out of a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being very confident, 1 being not confident, where are you on that scale of going through?
9.5.
Really? Well, okay. I was expecting a 7. Scotty, how are you feeling about the game?
It's perfectly poised, isn't it? It's there for the win. I believe if we can get the same 11 out of the park at Ibrox, we'll get the job done. To be honest, I thought the game yesterday. I mean, see when you look at different stats and stuff like it says that Benfica had the majority of the ball and blah blah blah. But the game in itself didn't really strike me as.
Well, let me stop you, Scott. I believe you've got a graphic on that. Are you able to pull that up and we can look at it when you talk about it?
So there it is. There. I mean, that kind of in terms of attacking momentum. The Greens Benfica and the Blues Rangers, that kind of tells a story and it doesn't because it's not accurate to me because although Benfica had all this attacking momentum, I don't think they made any big threat with it, to be honest. I think they were nullified really, really well, and anytime Rangers went forward, we looked dangerous on the counter or just whenever we had possession of the ball. In terms of am I confident that we can negotiate this tie at home? Yes, I am. If there's no more major injuries, because we just seem to be picking up injuries everywhere just now. I mean, so there's going to be some rotation, some bodies that come back in for Hibs on Sunday. But we'll need to wait and see how it all pans out for next Thursday. But I'm quietly confident that we're good enough to get a job done and get through, Billy, because we're experienced in this. I mean, if you look at who finishes the match last night in terms of having Ryan Jack and Connor Goldson, John Suter's not really got the European pedigree that the rest of the players have, but like James Tavernier and stuff like that. You've got the experience there of getting to a Europa League final, which is important. And I do fancy as being the better team over the two legs.
Kai, I'm a bit of a nervous watcher of the games. I'm always, scared. So that graphic, actually, I mean, that's how it felt, because I always feel like that, even when we're playing against Dundee. How did you feel watching? Does that represent what you thought the game was like?
No, not at all, mate. I think it would probably be similar. See, if you look at the away performance in Dortmund, I think it would probably be similar to that. Like, they had most of the ball, they got forward more than we did, but I think we still looked, as Scott said, more dangerous when we were going forward. We might not have had as many attacks, but I would definitely say going forward we looked more dangerous. Like, I was more confident of us scoring going forward than conceding the other way. And I think if we managed to have the kind of stats for, again, the away win in Dortmund, it would probably be very, very similar to that kind of momentum chart. So I think it definitely didn't feel like that for me. I never felt we were in any real kind of danger. So it definitely didn't feel like that to me.
Well, it's maybe just me then. You have a lot more confidence in the team. I actually I agree with you. It did feel a bit like Dortmund, but I've got to say, even in that game when we were 4-1 up at one point, am I right in saying that? I'm like, oh, why did we annoy them? They're just going to come and scud us 10-4 or something. Anyway, so I'm like that anyway. But no, thanks very much for putting that up for us, Scott. Any last words on the game last night? Or we're ready to move on?
I thought it was, if you don't mind me coming in first, Billy, I thought it was a very comfortable performance for Rangers. I don't think Benfica offered anything too dangerous in terms of a threat. Just because it's credit away, Philippe Clermont's got his team playing just now. It's an injury ravaged squad. That's essentially, in some positions, arguably a second team we've played. And we've came away with a 2-each draw. And Portugal again, we've yet again went to Portugal and not get beat or not looked out of place as such. The only real team that's gave us a good game in terms of when we played Portugal was Braga in the first leg at Ibrox when we won 3-2. I thought Braga were outstanding that night for the first kind of hour. But that's the only real time I've seen us get played off the park to an extent. So I'm overly happy with that draw last night. If you get asked before the game, you take that and you run.
I do agree with your point that a bit like a second string team, but they're playing like the way you wanted the first string team to be playing. So no, I'm happy myself. I'm quietly confident. Out of 10, Scott, how confident are you going through?
10. We're getting through.
10. Okay. Well, let's look ahead then to the Scottish Cup tie with Hibs on Sunday. I believe you going, Scott?
Yeah, I'm in my first experience in a gantry for the Gallant Few, so that's going to be good. So I'm really looking forward to it. So I'll be there.
Are you going to do a pre-match in the stadium pod for us?
I would imagine so, but it'll be on a Gallant Few podcast.
All right, fair enough. I guess sorry, I never caught that bit of it. Now, I've got in my notes, should we rest anyone or rotate? But I think we're going to have to, bearing in mind we've got an important game against Benfica again. What do you think, Kai? Are we going to, or what positions are we going to be maybe rotating?
I think when we eventually look at my predicted lineup, I went a bit mental with the rotation and just rotated wherever I could. To be honest, I think the defence probably needs a rest. If we're going to trust this squad, then you're going to have to bring in Balogun and Davis and probably Barisic as well. If Raskin and Jack can give us an hour, even 45 minutes, like that's obviously, I think Lundstram needs a rest. He looked dead on his feet last night. Absolutely knackered for the shift they put in. Then he obviously started giving away some slack passes, which hasn't been like him. So I think we need to rotate there. The forwards as well. I mean, we're short in options, so we need to rest where we can. We obviously want to go through. We're not underestimating Hibs by any means, but I think going forward, It's obviously a big game on Thursday. And I think the game against Dundee is probably the most important. I'm sure that's obviously next Sunday as well because we're playing the Thursday night. So I think we do need to rotate wherever we can, to be honest.
Maybe it's actually a good time, Scott. Have you got Kai's team? We can have a look at it.
43 of them out.
So I know mine's the middle one because I've made a silly wee red mark in it. So is yours the left-hand side one?
On the right.
On the right.
On the right, mate. Aye. It's pretty much rotated the whole team apart from I've put Lawrence in there. But it could be anybody because I know even Lovelace on the left. I don't know how. Did anything come out from his injury the other day? I've not heard anything since, so I don't know if he's.
I haven't either.
I don't know if he's fit. I don't think any reports of kind of came out. So if he's fit, I'd chuck him in again. We'd surely be able to trust Jack and Raskin. Again, Balogun's a lot of experience. Same with Barisic. Davis hasn't played much. But I think if we're ever going to use him, now's kind of the right time. You don't want to chuck him in against Benfica next Thursday. And again, I think Dundee next Sunday's probably the biggest game, getting back to league duties. So I've went a bit mental on the rotation, but I think that's what we need to do.
Scott, don't you want to go through? You talk us through your team.
Right, so I think mine's is in the centre, innit?
That's mine.
That's yours, right? Mine's is in the left. So I've went with Butland, Tavernier, Goldson, Balogun, Yilmaz, Lundstrom, Jack, Lawrence, McCausland, Fabio Silva, and Dessers. I think seeing...
So not a lot of rotation there for you?
No. On previous evidence, just the way Clermont lines up in a cup, you've seen the lineup at home against the United. That wasn't a weakened team by any means. Be interesting to see if McCausland plays. I really like Kai's team because I would like to see Lovelace get a start. I'm desperate for that boy to get a start so that we can convince him to sign a new contract. We've got a player there with so much potential that I don't think we realise how good he is because we've not seen him. Potentially, you could maybe bring Raskin and Jack into Midley Park, and I think Lundstrom needs a rest, but I think he's going to play essentially because of the importance of the game and the magnitude of it. It's a big challenge. Hibs are starting to settle in with these players they've got from Bournemouth. They're definitely went up in quality. So I think you need to put your strongest 11 out there as best as possible because, as Clement said last week in his presser, the board had wanted him to prioritise the League Cup and he says, no, I don't prioritise anything. I want to win everything. So that's stuck in my head in terms of the lineup because I think he's going to go with a really strong team. I think you're going to see Suter drop out and Balogun coming back in though.
I mean, you mentioned a couple of times actually on this pod that you thought Lundstrom needed a rest. Right. And I do agree with you actually. To be honest, I think maybe Tav obviously probably needs a rest as well. But we've seen in the past that when he's had opportunities to rest Tavernier, for instance, he hasn't. They played him against Ayr that day. And I tend to think that he probably shouldn't play Lundstrom, in my opinion, but I think he probably will. In my lineup, though, I think I had, what was it, Diamandi? I've got Diamandi and Lundstrom as well, actually, so I thought I'd pick Jack. I think Jack would be capable, come out if he's able to play, at least to come in and play 60 minutes, I'd be happy with that, and keep Lundstrom for the midweek game. Kai, you said you think that the league is the most important, even over the European game?
100%, mate. I think it's more difficult saying it now because we're obviously fully in the tie and I'm confident we're going to go through. But before the game on Thursday night, I still say the league's a priority. It's where it's obviously, if we had the chance to win the Europa, it'd be amazing. Again, it's good financially as well, brilliant for the coefficient. But the real money's actually in winning the league title this season and getting into the Champions League. I think there's something like 60 million or something up for grabs. How the funds are working from the new how the Champions League's working from going straight in. So I think 100% Dundee's the most important game. I think I'd probably prioritise the Hibs game third and then go Europa and then the Dundee game still being the most important for me.
Do you agree with that, Scott?
Yeah, I'd need to agree. But I don't think it's going to work that way. I think Clement is going to prioritise everything. I think he wants to win everything. As much as I like the attitude, I still think there's got to be a priority for the league title. I'm afraid that you can't get away from it. And if we were to drop out of a cup competition, I would complain about it. I wouldn't be happy, but at the same time, if it's going to lessen the matches and let us get a clearer run at a league title, then so be it, kind of thing. You need to turn everything into a positive, as far as I'm concerned. But he's going to go for everything hell for leather. So I suppose we just need to strap ourselves in and see where we end up, Billy.
That's a good point. Do you think Clement has been, 100% truthful with his thoughts when he mentions a board member saying to him to prioritise one competition over another, and he seems to say, no, I prioritise every game. Do you think he really feels like that, or he's just kind of playing to the gantry a wee bit?
I think on evidence of what we've seen so far in terms of, you look at his strength in the lineup we put in against Dumbarton back after the first winter break. The first game, the strength of the lineup shows you how serious he's taken every competition this season. So I do mean it when I say that you need to strap yourself in and see where we end up, because we could either go win the lot, win a few trophies, or we've seen it before when in the run to UEFA Cup final in 2008 that the squad kind of broke down towards the end. They just couldn't get it over the line. So it's interesting to see, and it's definitely an exciting time to be a Rangers supporter.
I'll take this over the third division then, any day.
Definitely, mate.
Well, Kai, just in relating to what I'm saying about Clement really telling you his feelings, I'm 50-50 on it, because if you've seen his post-match press conference last night, he didn't seem very happy that they didn't win.
No, and I respect that. I think the reason he's not happy, obviously, the quote is with the chance to make history, which again refers to the fact that Benfica have never lost a Europa League game at home.
I think he said a miracle.
Obviously probably, so it's probably relating to the equaliser being an own goal as well. We're in a really strong position to come away with that, and I respect him not being happy with that. As much as we're all delighted with a draw, you don't want your manager to go out and want to be second best or want to kind of scrape a draw. And I do, again, like Scotty says, I do believe that he is prioritising everything. That's why we're seeing such strong sides. I think it's just going to be a struggle because of the amount of injuries that we have. I'd feel more confident in all the competitions if we weren't kind of especially struggling in the wings, like 4 or 5 wingers injured and waiting for people to come back. If the squad was fully fit, I'd be fully confident in all the competitions. It's just, it probably will get to a stage there needs to be a priority. He might not come out and say it, but he'll know himself that when it comes down to it, I think the league needs to be top of that list.
Now, I touched on Kemar Roof earlier on about the Benfica game, but I didn't talk about him too much because I wanted to keep him towards the end. We've all picked him in the starting lineup, so obviously we like him. We think he can do a job, but how confident are you, Kai, that he's going to be able to stay fit for a run of games?
Not even a wee bit, mate.
No.
Not at all. Historically, we've seen that he breaks down very easily. I know it's not his fault. It's not a personal decision. It's just kind of the way his body is at the moment. I do think that technically he's a very good striker on his day. He is quality. If it wasn't for the injuries in his career, he probably doesn't end up at Ibrox. Not at that age. Maybe at the age Defoe was, he might have ended up here, but kind of when he should have been in his prime, he would never have ended up at Ibrox if it wasn't for the injuries kind of holding him back a wee bit. See if he can just contribute towards the end of the season and then leave. Thank you and goodbye. That's the way I see it. Even if he stays fit and scores 10 goals towards the end of the season, I'm not giving him a new deal. Shouldn't be committing to that. I think we need to just hope that he can stay fit until even Sima, Danilo, or whoever else come back in to give us extra bodies. Gets a couple of goals here and there, lets us rest players, and then end of his contract. Thanks for your contributions and goodbye.
And Scott, just for talking's sake, let's say he does play a decent amount of games, for half of the games towards the end of the season, and we have a successful season in whatever way you want to define that. Overall, has he been worth it?
No. I need to be brutal about it. and it's just he's obviously I've never had the fact that I follow Leeds, they're my English team. So I had the pleasure of watching Kemar Roofe play a lot more at Leeds than what I have at Rangers. And Bill, I still think he's probably the best striker in the country, Billy. Hands down, even now. I think if you get a fully fit Kemar Roofe, he doesn't be playing for Rangers, he's playing in the English Premier League and he's starting every week. That's how good I think the guy is. Unfortunately for him, his body just doesn't seem to like playing football. It's breaking down it every single opportunity. And I mean, so many managers, so many doctors, medical staff that we've had on board at Rangers have tried different ways to get Kemar Roofe in the park, and the only one that seemed to be successful at it was Steven Gerrard. I think that was fair to say, because of the way he used him. He never ever had a run of matches. I mean, see if you get back to Giovanni Van Bronckhorst's era and Morelos is injured. As soon as Kemar Roofe comes up against Celtic, he's in a cup semi-final at Hampden. He goes into extra time and he breaks down. And then he misses the Europa League final because of that injury. It's things like that. He's not robust, unfortunately for him. I'm not sitting here saying that's Kemar Roofe's fault. I mean, for what I've read in different interviews and stuff, him as a person is trying very hard, and he always has tried very hard to get on a pitch and play for Rangers. That's not what I'm doubting. It's just he's just injury prone. It's sorry to say, it's just not. He's definitely not worth enough contract on the wages he's on, because he's not contributing, unfortunately, because he's not on the park. But I still think you've got him. He's still got a role to play in terms of, he's proved that against Betis away from home. He scores a winner. If you can bring him off the bench and use him properly, and he can stay injury free, then I think that's the role Kemar Roofe's got going forward. In terms of starting a run of matches, it's not worth even trying it, because we've seen this film before, if you want to say that. So for me, it's you just shake hands and let him go in the summer and bring in somebody more robust that can play every week, i.e. Lawrence Shankland. Yet again, I'm going to bang out Lawrence Shankland drum, because he's been fit all season. He's scoring goals. He's robust. He could play 3 games a week if you needed him to. He's got that level of fitness. He's got that eye for goal. So I would potentially say that's who you've got. I mean, think how much better we would be as a team with him up front in the last kind of 4-5 matches. He's just different. He's just different. But it's a pipeline dream. I don't think it's going to happen. I think Nils Koppin is going to be doing a lot of work in the background. I think some of the videos Kai's doing in terms of scouting reports, leagues like Croatia and Serbia, I think that's the route we're going to be looking in. That's the market we're going to be shopping in. And I'm all for it, because we've unearthed gems like Cortez and Diamandi already through it. So I can't really come on and shout about Lawrence Shankland when the club's going to go and do their own thing, and quite rightly too.
I think we'll all just and it might just be Clement's style of, he likes a player, they play up front for 60 minutes and then we're going to switch him with somebody else. That might just be what he wants to do, and it might not be Desser's fault. He's not maybe playing 90 minutes, but that stands out for me. Just going by Shankland, like, he's playing the whole game. He's lasting the 90 minutes. He's still scoring. So I do like that about him. Again, who knows who we're looking at? As far as I'm aware, you might be able to correct me. There wasn't any interest in him in January. So, do you see when you're reading, Scotty? Do you know what actually is the problem with Kemar Roofe? Like, is it the same thing, or is it different injuries every time?
It's different injuries. At Leeds, it was his calves. His calves won the good to him, and I think he's picked up 1 or 2 calf injuries at Rangers, but I think it's more his thigh. I know his thighs have let him down. He's had a couple of hamstring knocks. I think it's just everything. And I don't even think, like, see, if you look back at Daniel Sturridge playing at Liverpool, Jurgen Klopp had come out a few times and says it was more of a mentality thing as well with Daniel Sturridge. I don't think it's that with Kemar Roofe. I think he's just an injury-prone football player, to be brutally honest. And I don't think it's not anybody's fault, especially not his.
Kai, you've been doing these videos. Have you got anybody in mind that you would swap in right now?
His biggest player I've probably been touting for months on Twitter is Mateus Saldana, that plays with Partizan.
Okay.
It's the Brazilian striker. We've obviously had that with Danilo, but Saldana's quality is just a step above that league. ready for his next big move. It just depends how much Partizan kind of want for him. I mean, I wouldn't turn down Shanklin, but I mean, they mentioned Lawrence Shanklin's definitely on that Scotty Mackay bingo card. But if we can get Shanklin in, I would definitely take him. I've said obviously in our chat that if he's coming in, I think we need to kind of take Dessers out. If we can sell Dessers and even put a wee bit extra towards getting Shanklin, then I'd 100% do that. Like, I don't think we can turn down a player of that kind of quality, but it's obviously an area we need to look at. We don't know what Danilo's going to be like when he comes back in. If we're going to see him this season, he could come in, hit the ground running again, and then we're only looking for a backup instead of looking for like a new number 9. So be interesting to see how it plays out towards the end of the season.
So, score prediction for the upcoming game against Hibs, Scott. We did quite well against them at Easter Road last time, but what are you thinking about this game?
Oh, I'm really not sure. I think because Hibs have got these boys in for Bournemouth and they're starting to get a tune out of them, I think it's going to be a different challenge. Hibs went with a midfield 3 when they matched up against Celtic at Easter Road. I think we're probably going to see something similar from them in terms of a challenge. I'm going to go 2-1. It's going to be a very tight, nervy affair. I think it's going to have a similar feel to it to the Killie game, but I think we're going to have enough about us to get the job done and get through.
You seem to know a wee bit about the Hibs team now in comparison to when we played them before. What has changed tactically with them? You mentioned 3 in the midfield, but what's because they didn't look particularly great when we played them.
No, they didn't. But their manager tends to let the handbrake off. That old saying. Goes with like a 4-2-2-2. Plays Martin Boyle and the other wingers at Ellie Yuan. He keeps them up high and wide. And then he's obviously got the boy Dylan Vente, and I think it's Marcelino or Marcelano or something like that. The guy from Bournemouth's called. But Dylan Vente's not even been kicking a ball for them. It's been the 2 boys that they've got on loan for Bournemouth that have been doing it. They got a very, very good result at Tynecastle. Tynecastle's not an easy place to go. They went and got a draw there. So it's going to be a different challenge. It's going to be a much tougher challenge this time because I think the ball match is 3 for 3 in midfield. So it'll be interesting to see who comes out on top, which is why I still kind of had Lundstrom in my lineup because Hibs are going to throw the kitchen sink at Rangers on Sunday.
And Kai, how are you feeling it's going to go? What's your score prediction?
I'm gonna go 2-0. I do think it's going to be a tight game. I think they've got the boy on from Hertha Berlin's at Mal Leader or something that's come on to a bit of a game as well. I think he's got a couple of goals since. I'm sure he was previously I'm sure it was either like between a 7 and 10 million pound signing for whoever he's been at. He's a decent player, like Scott said. I'm sure it's Emiliano Marcondes, that plays that kind of either false 9 or the 10. He's technically a very good player. I've always liked, I wouldn't want us to sign him, I've always liked kind of Joe Newell in midfield for them. He's got a very good left foot, set piece deliveries are great. They've got Dylan Levitt as well, who's also obviously quality at Dundee United, came through Man United youth system. They've got a decent side, and Nick Montgomery wants them to go for it. Like, it's respectable, but it's something we can obviously take advantage of, and we did the last time at Easter Road. So, relatively confident, and I'm going to go for a 2-0.
Billy, can I come in quickly?
Of course, yep. You go.
Guy, you say Joe Newell's got he's got a good set piece delivery. Can his set piece deliveries beat the first man?
Normally so, may I? Maybe good for
him.
that. Just bring one for
Sign
corners.
Sign him.
I think I'm more confident than you, Scott, and probably similar to you, Kai. I think probably I'd be very happy with a 2-0. 2-0 victory. They're a different prospect than when we faced them last time. We've also coming off the back of a home defeat, so you've got that at the back of your mind. I think I'd be a lot more confident if we'd, beaten Motherwell, had a good result during the week with the draw, and all systems go to this game. But that loss is sitting at the back of your mind, going, "Oh, is that a blip? Is it out the system?" We obviously have to hope that it is. Any final thoughts, boys, on what we've been talking about, either the previous games or the upcoming game? Kai, on you go.
Happy with the Benfica result. Obviously, ignoring the Motherwell result now, it's not put us in a worse position we were in before. So we just need to move on from that. Like you said, hope it's a blip. Get a great result away in Benfica. It's, again, you obviously want to win all the competitions you're in, but the Scottish Cup's the one I'm kind of least focused on at this point. That might have been different had we not got such a good result away in Lisbon. But at this point, it's the one I'm least focused on. But I still think we'll come away comfortable winners and then go and get a good result on Thursday night. And again, as I've mentioned a few times, I think Dundee is still the most important game. So I'm sure we play after Celtic. I'm not sure who they play next weekend, but I think we play after them, so that could be a massive game. They obviously have the chance to go back to the top of the league. So this is a game where you really see if we have the mentality to go on and kind of keep that top spot. So that's another reason why I think that's the most important game coming up.
Anybody going to the Dundee game?
Nah.
It's close enough for me. I might end up being there. But Scott, are you any final thoughts on what we've been talking about?
I just kind of want to sum up my mood overall that Rangers are in a good place just now. It's a very good time to be a Rangers supporter. I think the distraction of the European game on Thursday that's exactly what it's provided, a distraction. And we've got a Scottish Cup tie coming up on Sunday that's also not a league game. I think that's the beauty of still being still having European football is as thin as the squad is just now. It's providing that kind of distraction. So we're in a good place. We'll go through in the Scottish Cup, but to me, it was all about getting to the international break, still top of the league. And if we do that, then we can kind of hit a reset button, come back, hopefully Seema's back after the international break. I've heard he's doing some training on the grass without the ball. I don't know about Danilo, how far he is on, but I'm hoping that we're going to see a couple of these guys coming back after the international break, and then we can really go for hell for leather in this title running.
For me, when we dropped points against Motherwell, the worst thing in the back of my mind was we've then got 2 weeks of them possibly being top of the league. But as the way things turned out, we're a goal better off because of their result. And we're sitting top of the league for these 2 weeks with all these games to look forward to. And they're sitting, the mental side of things, they're sitting, their players, I don't even mean the fans, they're sitting, being second, sitting there for 2 weeks. I'd rather be in our position, where, as you say, the distraction of European football and a cup game before going back and getting to the international break, getting players back, as you say, Scott, is going to be hopefully enough to push us to the title towards the end of the season. Kai, thank you very much for being on the pod this evening.
That was an absolute pleasure, mate. And like Scott said, the video went up earlier on today where I looked at 5 players that I think Rangers could sign in the Croatian League. Done it in partnership with the Croatian Footy podcast. I left their link in the video down below. It's something I'm going to kind of look to incorporate into it. Obviously, it's all well and good me looking at numbers and looking at footage, but I want to speak to people that are genuine experts in the league to kind of get a grasp of the players I'm identifying, if they're good enough. And then I think it just gives a bit more legitimacy to the video to kind of speak to people that know what they're talking about instead of me just going off numbers and a few clips. So check that out, and remember, we'll be going live at 6:30 on Monday as well. So thanks for watching.
You stole my thunder on that one. I was going to finish with the 6:30 on Monday, but just can I go back to you? Just, is there any other leagues you're thinking of looking at as well?
Well, if you follow the Rangers Runner on Twitter, every Friday after the video goes up, I put up a poll for the next week. So this week it's between Norway, Sweden, the Israeli Premier League and the Austrian Bundesliga. So if you don't follow us already, at Rangers Journal, you can vote on the poll so you get a say in the next video and next league we look at.
Thanks very much, mate. And Scotty, thank you for coming on.
No, thanks for having me again, guys. It was nice to sit in a different seat tonight. Just want to thank viewers. We've hit some record numbers for Rangers Journal night. We've currently got 242 watching. If everybody could please hit a like and subscribe button. There's loads of free content that's going on the channel. We're trying really hard to make this a good pod for Rangers fans to come and watch. Also want to thank the boys at the We Are The People app as well for letting us use their platform to put our predicted team lineups on. So to everybody in the chat, have a good weekend, and I'll see you all on Monday.
Thanks, Scotty. Thank you, everyone in the chat. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Again, as I reiterate, please share with everyone you know if you enjoyed the podcast. And we will have other content over the weekend, but we'll be back again on Monday evening at 6:30 for our show. So thank you everyone for watching.